Hello, friends. My name is Pavel Smutny, and I'm here again after some months. What about I want to speak now? Especially, I want to speak about the most ancient artifacts, about the most ancient buildings, structures, statues, uh, about our present science, about level of research and about uh, mainstream uh, politics in this case of mankind to wisdom. Firstly, I want to speak about age of pyramids, how were those pyramids, especially in Giza, but also in Saqqara, Dashur built. There are many versions how it was done. So what about the age? Mainly those mainstream scientists are claiming that those were built, those three main pyramids in Giza, circa 2,500-600 years BC. But we have many other sources which are speaking other facts. The most important are especially those historians like Meneto, Josephus, Africanus, and uh, and other, yes, Eusebius, who are speaking in their dating of dynasties when those pharaohs were living, those kings were living such way that till circa 1600 BC, those carbon dating sources, those official sourcing, mainstream sources, and that datings what I mentioned are quite in accordance. But those data which are 500,000 years older, especially those first dynasties or pre-dynasties time, is according Eusebius, Africanus, Josephus, Meneto, and according the carbon dating much older. So date of Hufehafre Menkavre is circa 1,000 years older, according to those historians. So it is circa not 2,600 BC, but 3,600 years BC, probably. And the age of zero dynasty, of pre-dynastic era, is not 3,000 years BC or 3,100 or 200, but it's maybe 4, 5, 6,000 years BC. Why is it so? Because mainstream science is quite dogmatic. If they started to claim some data, some facts, they don't want to stop it because those professors, those scientists who were good paid, who had got popularity, their titles due to their research, though those results are problematic. Uh, they don't want to stop it because it can damage the popularity, the status in such way. So, what another sources we have? For example, they are claiming that Khufu was builder of Khufu's pyramid, but probably those pyramids were only restored in that time. that time of fourth, third, fifth dynasties pharaohs. So only restoration was done. So it looks so, when you see, for example, on Menkaure pyramid, that the original casing, original tiles were granite tiles, quite heavy, hard granite tiles, which have some small protrusions, very similar with those protrusions which we can find, for example, in Peru, Bolivia, in Saskatchewan, Olai, Tutambo, Pumapunku, and in those other places which are out of dating. So we have those tiles on Menkaure pyramid, for example, but important is also fact that there are blocks, especially from one side of pyramid, and also other blocks on other places or other statues like Memnon Colossus and other, which are burnt from one side. So that burning of granite or other stones was done at very high temperatures. It's possible only when temperature 2000 till 3000 Celsius, so very high temperatures, so that granite is from one side damaged. There are legends, myths, which are speaking about such event, such plasma event, and I have also dating of such plasma event, which is the same on Senmut astronomical map. It's the same on that my carpet, and same on funeral banner from Mawangdui of Marquisa Tai, and this is circa 13,000, 30,500 years ago. So what happened in that time? In that time happened such a way that probably due to close approach, perihelia, close approach of Nibiru, so plasma was ejected from the sun, a lot of, and that plasma was moving, and if some those clouds of plasma hit Earth, so that part of Earth which was hit was overheated on a short time, and nearly everything was damaged. We can find not only statues or some blocks, but even some shifts, some layers. For example, in Saqqara, we can see that where is so-called Serapeum, there are even shift of ordinary floor, which is below the present level, which was damaged or was taken by such high temperatures. So from such things we can tell, yes, it happened such way. So now I'm speaking about Menkaure. So we have some part of that old tiles, old covering on Menkaure pyramid. But we have also those sources like Platon and Solon and those other who visited Egypt circa 500 years BC, and they spoke about those tiles which are shining. There was that bend on the top of pyramid, that cone, but that covering those tiles, that casings, very probably only like part of restoration during that time. What we see now is damage on Khufu Khafre Menkaure pyramid, which looks to be very sudden and very cruel damage. It looks that it was due to the flood or some very strong, especially strong, I don't know, wind tied with earthquake or something such. But the most probably the flood, because it's visible that casing was destroyed by flux from one side. So we can see it even now that it probably here happened such way. Uh, Pyramids were overflooded, but how was the level of water in that time when Khufu Khafra Menkaure lived? So we know that level of Nile is about 15 meters above sea level. Now in that area there are pyramids. Then, for example, Sphinx, the basement is about 19 meters above sea level. So it was possible that, for example, Sphinx was overflooded in some time or some thousand years ago, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years ago, due to that lower position. Okay, because floods on Nile could be 5, 10 till 20 meters, but pyramid basements are circa 50, 60 meters above sea level. So it's higher than is possible level of flood on Nile. So that flood which caused that bad damage was on pyramids, not on Sphinx. On pyramids was that global flood, Atlantean or Deucalion or Ogyx or another floods which were much bigger, level was much higher. There is a normal flood or even extreme flood on River Nile. So this is that point. Also, we can speak about level of erosion on those temples. We see that level of erosion on temples next to Sphinx, that Valley Temple, Sphinx Temple, is quite high and is comparable or even higher than is level of erosion, for example, on island Malta, where are also megalithic temples, megalithic structures. But Malta is in Mediterranean Sea in much more wet conditions. But it's possible that erosion on Sphinx was due to water or due to those flood on Niles. But there are temples next to pyramids, like that mortuary temple, which are also very badly damaged. There is very big level of erosion. So why? Because those temples, also pyramids, are much older than is that time when Egypt Kemet is dry. So it had to happen 9, 10,000 and more before present, when Sahara wasn't dry, when there were rains, and much more wet weather was in that area in that time. I also looked on maps of excavations, what are next or along the river of Nile. We can see that quite big settlements by quite big villages and towns next to Nile were there even in time circa 4, 5, 6, 11, 10, 20,000 years ago. So that Upper Egypt, Upper Kemet, was quite advanced a long time before present, because there are maps of excavations of tombs which were found in that area. So they are very like Nepka, where is Abydos, Abu Simbel. In that area, there were big settlements, 3 kilometer long towns or villages. 5-10,000 people lived in those towns in that time. And there were quite big temples, and that civilization was advanced. But when we look on area next to Giza, so in that time, circa till dynastic period, settlements weren't there, or there weren't big settlements. Even in Delta, there weren't. So why? Because during that global flood, or global or nearly global and other floods, that Lower Egypt, Lower Kemet was flooded, so there wasn't population. Population, people lived after floods only in that area where is circa Abydos, or where is Edfu, and up the river Nile. Okay, so only in Upper Egypt. Lower Egypt was practically without people. So, what artifacts we have? How old are pyramids? For example, they found in pyramid some pieces of wood, and radiocarbon dating show that wood is 3,100, 3,400 BC from that time. So 600-800 years before that mainstream dating. But maybe that wood is only from the time of restorations of pyramids. So how were those pyramids built? So there are millions of blocks, stones, or some are maybe like concrete blocks, not stones, according researches. So it's quite hard work, but to move blocks which are only 2, 5 till 10 tons, it's possible also with quite primitive methods by using many people, ropes, and some sledges, and so on. But we have also blocks inside of pyramids which are from granite. We have, for example, that Valley Temple, where are very big 50, 100 to 100 tons heavy blocks from granite, which is very smoothly uh, made from granite, basalt, and so on, and from a very big distance, like from Aswan, or next behind the Cairo, or from other areas. So when they tried to move or to transport on those boats which are similar to those boats which were used in dynasty Egypt, so it was nearly impossible. They were able to transport maybe 5-ton heavy block, not heavier. So what way was the transport done? So we know from those legends that there was used some special sound technology. So, with help of vibrations, maybe sound, acoustic sound with very high intensity, and some other special technologies were used, maybe electromagnetic field, and it was tuning in resonance and with using or some additive plates on sides of those heavy blocks. It's possible to use some for transport. For example, I tried it with small objects, but very soft, like small softball or ping pong ball. It's possible, but I use only sound vibrations in 100 decibel, not more. But if you use extra strong sound and additive technologies and with uh, tuning forks, because we know that tuning forks were used. Tuning forks which were in resonance with those blocks and very high level of sound and maybe some other special. Maybe they used some advanced devices from ancient time, from time of Atlanteans, or they knew how to construct those devices. Maybe those devices for the transport are no uh, so complicated. We know that, for example, from Dendera, that they were able to use electricity because electric bulbs with cables, with those glass bulbs with something like batteries, some insulators, some contacts from iron or copper were used. So it's very realistic electric device. And also there were found after some rest after galvanization in that area, for example, in Dendera temple. So they knew how to use electricity, and another place where electricity was used very probably is Saqqara, the Serapeum, because there are inside very heavy blocks from basalt, granite, and those blocks are some very hard material, lids about 20, 30 tons, and bottom parts, main parts, 70, 80 tons. So very heavy, very precisely made, very precisely polished. So even experts said that even in this time it's not possible with our technology to do such sarcophaguses. They spoke, mainstream scientists, that it was used for bulls, but probably purpose was a little other because when those first people found Serapeum, so those elites were even covered with many heavy stones against that big pressure what was inside of those sarcophagi. Maybe some sort of piezoelectric or other effects were used. It looks so that those sarcophagi were connected with some sort like cables or maybe copper, iron, or other wires or tubes or so. That some sort of electricity was produced there. Such way that inside was some material, wheat or yates or maybe also meat, and it was in that process when pressure was going up, and due to the pressure, probably maybe was made also electricity, maybe was used also something other to help to produce, for example, electricity or light. So next such divine object. And what we see inside those underground places where are those sarcophagi, those boxes, is fact that there is not rest after flame, after smooth. So it looks so that there was use for lightning, electricity, or some other source without of light, without those smooth black rests. So such way it was. So what is very strange also when we speak about modern science and when we speak about that mainstream science. Mainstream science, uh, when somebody is speaking about that this is older than you think, or this is older than it's wrote in your books, so they are strictly against. But one such killing wound to the mainstream science is Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe was discovered in 70s, I think so, and due to fact that it was covered with earth and so it had to be excavated. They found from carbon radioactive method that those pillars with some sort of glyphs, where are animals, where are astronomical constellations depicted, so that those pillars, those stone objects, are minimum 11,500 years old. So till this discovery, it was like duty that according to the mainstream science, nothing such is possible, that there are statues, that there are big stone precisely made objects which are older than, for example, 8,000 years ago, because according uh, those theories, those Neolith, Mesolith, Paleolith, there weren't such people who were able to do some such things. But we see, and there is another fact that we have only very small part of that area excavated. That area is very big. That it means that the settlement was very big. A lot of people had to participate it on that building of those stone circles, those pillars, and so on. Yes. So why not? Why not Pumapunku? Why not Saskatchewan? Why not Olaitutambo? Where are very heavy 20, 60, 100 tons big blocks, which are very precisely made, very smooth surfaces. It looks that some blocks are from stone, but it looks also that some blocks are from some sort of concrete, because that material is so homogeneous that it's nearly impossible that that material is stone. And they have very irregular but very precisely made shapes. So rectangular, and there are 6, 8 and more side regular objects which are put one another without some slits, some spacings among them, so very precisely done. We can see even some like tubes, like water guides, which are also very precisely done, like those modern for canalization used uh, from ceramic devices. So very precisely, and there are also those damages after burning from one side after that plasma event. Uh, so why those mainstream so strictly don't want that people speak about it, that scientists devote to this, because it's all about advanced technologies, advanced civilizations, which were here 10,000, 20, 30, 50,000 years ago, maybe also another civilization, maybe millions years ago. And those present uh, scientists, which are mainstream, which are like politicians, they have their dogmas, they have that pressure from side of those billionaires, from side of those greedy politicians, are claiming that this present civilization is that one which is the most advanced, the best, and there is no one other. Also, they deny contacts with extraterrestrials. Though we have also some artifacts from Egypt, from South America, Mesoamerica, that there were such contacts. In Bible we have such in Henoch book, in Enuma Elish. There are many other sources, Popol Vuh, and those Vimanika Shastra from India, Bhagavad Gita, also texts from China, all these texts from China about the first emperors, about that time, the most ancient time, sources from Russia, sources from Japan, speaking about that some advanced, some gods or some advanced beings, entities which helps to do this present civilization. Also, when we look on those all these texts, for example, on those secret or those signed Hindu texts, or for example, that book of light of old Slavs, and on another text, we see that there is used knowledge which is in accordance with the last discoveries of science, the last discovery of science about space, about the microcosmos, about the structure of matter, of light. So it's not possible. It's not possible that it was only some sudden discovery of not advanced people. So they had got advanced technologies, advanced science, and these at present are claiming that they are the best, but they are using those technologies or the most advanced of extraterrestrials, but secret, and they are selling some such products which use those technologies, but another products are used only for those the richest, those the so-called most powerful politicians, scientists, billionaires, and so on. So, what's important? What's the most important? The most important is to persuade people what's the real state of science. That science, which is in West Europe, which is in in USA, is not the right, not the science which is fully acceptable by people which have interest about the most ancient history, about what is happening in our cosmos, our space, because we know that those top politicians, those top scientists are cheating us. Okay? So thank you people very much for your attention, for this audience. Thank you. Goodbye and see you later.